You're listening to Datcast Media.
You like to go by Hyde. Can you kind of explain how that became your social media name?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a Japanese band that I got really heavily into during high school. The guitar player. So in Japanese, you've got it's very similar to like Spanish in the way that the words are pronounced, right? So there's a guitar player named Hyde, but in English it's spelled like Hyde, Hide. So when I became like super into the band and that guitar player, a lot of my friends were kind of teasing it a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, Hyde, Hyde, Hyde," because it looks like Hyde. So a lot of people started calling me Hyde, but I kind of wanted, since I took that name on in high school, I was like, I want to change it a little bit so it doesn't look like I'm just trying to take his name. So I changed it to Hyde with a Y, and it just stuck, and that's what it's been ever since I was in high school. And it's funny because I was just looking at yearbooks from high school, like I don't know, last week, and just seeing how many people were calling me Hyde. I was just like, I forgot how many people started that in high school, you know?
Okay, so you actually got into like guitar playing in high school.
Yeah, so I got my first guitar. It would have been the summer going into my freshman year, so 2003.
Keep forgetting that you're like almost 10 years older than me. So it's like in 2003, I was like not even on MySpace yet.
I'm like trying to think if my math is even right on that. It was either 2002 or 2003 because I graduated in '07. So yeah, probably 2003, 2004, somewhere in
Oh,
there.
yeah,
I don't know.
it's so weird. Like you would never know that you were 34 or as you had said 149.
149. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so yes, you prefer to go by Hyde. That's a cute little backstory.
Thank you. That's what I
Um,
was going for was cute, you know.
I really figured that you were. I mean, you really fit into that sort of mold. So I
Just
wanted to,
super
make a
kawaii.
note. Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, okay, so that kind of leads me into another question that I had about like what kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Oh, 100% like 80s hair bands. I grew up listening to Dawkins, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, all that stuff with my dad. My dad was super into that. I mean, I could go on this for days, you know, Motley Crue, Rat, all that stuff. Um, and yeah, so like growing up, it was all 80s hair bands. My dad was the kind of guy that was like, don't listen to country, it'll cause cancer. Like just rock and roll, you know what I mean?
It seems like your band is a lot like kind of like and I don't want this to come off wrong, but it's like kind of like emo music. So
I definitely wouldn't say emo.
whenever I hear it, I think of bands like Bring Me the Horizon, like Starset, bands that people my age, again, this is my
Sure,
generation,
sure.
kind of grew up with in that emo era.
So let me ask.
So
So let me ask you this: would you consider Bring Me the Horizon an emo band?
yes, I
Really
would because because everybody that was emo in my school, like that was like one of their top like bands that they would listen to.
interesting.
So I
Okay,
would.
okay, interesting. Yeah. So I definitely have heard that before in terms of like our band sounding kind of like in the same vein as Bring Me the Horizon. Um, I've never thought of them as an emo band. When I think emo, I think like oh geez, I don't even know. My Chemical Romance, stuff like that, right? Like that's kind of where I'm going with like emo. But yeah, I mean the
Would you
music.
consider them if they're not emo? Because I only ever knew the emo kids to listen to Bring Me the Horizon.
Um, I'm not familiar enough with too much of their music to really know. Like my thought process would probably be more along the lines of like, actually, I really just don't even know. I guess they're an emo band. Like I don't know. The first thought that comes to my head would be somewhere like closer to like metalcore, I guess. But maybe not.
Well, okay. I guess like maybe I'm just not well versed enough in all the different genres of music. I kind of just categorize things as like, okay, this sounds good. I like this,
Sure,
or I don't like this.
sure,
Like
sure,
that's pretty much as far as I go with it. I like a little bit of everything, so I don't think I care so much about like the individual categories.
sure, sure, sure.
Um, but yeah, sorry if that was
No, 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 it's
not
fine. Yeah,
what
no.
you guys are going for, but like as
I on
a person who grew up in that era, like that's kind of the music
Okay.
style that it reminds me of.
Yeah, when people ask me like what our band is, I'm always like, we just kind of write music. I think we're like somewhere between like rock and metal. A lot of people say we sound like a mix between, depending on the song too. A lot of our songs have different kind of, sounds, but metal and like even or I'm sorry, some people will say Bring Me the Horizon, some people will say Motionless in White, some people will say Corn. So I mean we're kind of just like all over the place.
Don't think I've heard any songs that specifically remind me of corn, but if you do have any of those, feel free to send them my way.
Oh, I'll send you one and you'll be like, oh, this is definitely a Corn like style for sure.
Then yeah, maybe I just haven't heard the right songs. But anyways, the reason why I asked that is because I wondered if like you went through like an emo phase at all.
Um so visually probably yeah. Um Musically not really because like I was really into like I said the 80s stuff. But then I did get really into for a short period of time. I think because they kind of reminded me visually of like Motley Crue, I got into Black Veil Brides pretty heavily. So that kind of inspired me to take the everything a step further with my image. So
Wait, let me
image.
stop you there. How did they remind you of Motley Crue?
Oh, clothing style wise. I mean, when they came out,
Oh, okay.
yeah, when
I
they
thought you meant like sound wise. I was
no,
like,
no, 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 no. Like when they came out, so I actually had seen them before I even knew who they were. I was
okay.
working this event down in Bakersfield, California. There was a big festival, and I was back. So it was a big festival, and like I'm sure you've been to a festival before where they've got like the center is kind of where all the stages and the bands are, and outside of that's where all the buses and all this shit is, right? So we were standing back there, like where all the artists were, and a buddy of mine and a girl that I was seeing at the time, we were standing there just chatting backstage, and I look over and this group of dudes in like leather pants and chains and big hair and all this shit come walking through, and I'm like, holy shit, who are these guys? Like this looks like a modern day Motley Crue. I mean, they were wearing the cowboy boots. I mean, the whole nine. And that was kind of my first introduction to them. And I was like, yeah, that's somebody else is bringing back the 80s. I want to be part of this. I need to do this.
That is awesome. So did you kind of go through like an 80s hair metal sort of phase, or would you consider what you're doing now kind of like that?
Um, I would say it was kind of a blend because I kind of did that mixed with kind of what was known as the scene. I had like
Mhm.
the scene hair and all
I
that.
tried to do that, but my hair, I have this terrible cowlick right here, and it's like if I try to cut my hair, like pull it like to the side or anything, it just
Just
parts anyways. Looks
yeah.
real dumb.
Yeah, you got to like do some heavy training on that for sure.
I've tried. I've had
Yeah,
this cowlick my entire life, so it's there.
yeah.
But yeah, okay. So if you have a scene phase like photo gallery, I also need that for this interview.
Oh, I definitely do. It's the
Oh yeah,
beginning. It's the beginning of my Instagram.
that's awesome. Oh, so
Yeah.
how long have you had Instagram?
Oh, I just looked at this the other day. 2000. Oh, hi, Kitty. 2011, I think, is when I started it.
And you still had a scene phase in 2011?
Girl, that's when I started my scene phase.
Oh
Yeah, I
wow,
was late to
that
the party.
is, yeah, you sure were. I think like most people, that was like what, 2006?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there. Yeah, I didn't really get started with it until like I just was too like I was working corporate jobs. I was working, for a company called CarMax. I was selling cars. Like it wasn't really like the salesman thing
You
to do to
don't
have.
strike me as a salesman.
No, I was. That's pretty much all I've done my whole life is just like door to door sales or car sales or like insurance sales, something. I've always sold something.
So you never went to college or anything? You just kind of were always selling, or
Yeah, so I graduated
what did you want to be like out of high school other than
ex
a rock star? Because I mean,
exactly
every
what I
boy's
am right
dream ever.
now. No, literally exactly what I am right now. Like I wanted, being young, I remember telling my dad I wanted to be a photographer. I became a photographer, you know.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah, like everything that I always knew what I wanted to do, but I grew up in areas around people who always said that like, yeah, good luck, basically. So like I always knew what I wanted to do, but I was always told that it was impossible. So I had a bunch of random like jobs and you know what I mean, just to kind of try to figure it out. And I made decent money doing things, but I just never was happy. And then I finally just said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Like that's it. I'm just gonna do it. You know.
When did that actually all start? Like, when did you start the online sort of
The
gigging
the
stuff?
online portion really started November 2020 with COVID. Because I was doing so I went to cosmetology school. I graduated in 2016. I got licensed. I started working in a salon. Didn't enjoy it. I lost like all the passion for doing hair after I started working in the salon. My girlfriend at the time owned a dance company, and she needed somebody to photograph her dance students for recitals. So she's like, I know you've always wanted to be a photographer. If I get you a camera, we learn how to use it and, start helping me with that. And I said, absolutely. So she kind of got me my first camera. And from that point on, I think maybe 2 months into having my camera, I started taking like wedding clients and just full blown going into it until COVID hit. Once that happened, I couldn't do it anymore, obviously, for, obvious reasons. So I said, I don't want to sit on unemployment. I got to figure out something. And that's when I kind of figured out the whole TikTok and Patreon and Twitch and everything else that I do now.
Did you have your vampire teeth at that point?
No,
Okay, so when did that happen? And are they actually like veneers, like they're on there or what?
I don't remember exactly when it happened. I know it wasn't too long after I started doing all this. I reached out to a company called Chaos Custom Fangs. What they do is they actually create handmade custom fangs based on the individual's teeth. So these are actually just caps. They just pop in and out.
Oh my God, you're not a real vampire.
Don't tell anybody. Um, but what we did was I told him, I said, hey, look, I've got a Patreon. I've got X amount of hundreds of followers on Patreon. And what I want to do is I want to create my own fangs. Like I don't want to use Interview with the Vampire fangs or Underworld fangs. I want to have Bokua Hyde fangs. And I want it to be exclusive for my patrons only. Like nobody can buy them from the website. I'll send you business, but I want to have our own thing. And he loved it. So we sat down and we designed my own style of fangs, and that's what these are. These are the Hyde vampire fangs, and they're
So what's different about them?
the shape. These ones. So what he did was he took photos of my face, smiling and showing my teeth, and he designed them based on my facial structure. So these are like our creation together. These fangs, it would be really hard to show you on camera right now, but I do have a photo online. You can see a close up of them. They're serrated.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
really
they're definitely a
neat.
unique style of fang.
Can you
And they
eat with
come,
them?
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you can eat with them, but you got to be really careful. Like you obviously don't want to swallow one because it would be a really bad day. They're really sharp.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's like you can eat with them. It's not highly recommended, but it also depends on what you are eating. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, because it would be a really rough time swallowing one of them.
I mean, I've seen people eat glass, so I feel like a tooth is nothing,
Yeah, I'm
really.
I'm not one of those people, so
You're like, I'm not taking the chance.
no,
No,
I'm good off that.
I totally respect that. Do you wear your fangs out like often, or is this more for just like the streaming, the online stuff, the interviews with a vampire, you know?
It's more for content. I don't want to say that they're not comfortable, but definitely wearing them all day can start getting a little uncomfortable. So it's mostly like if I'm going somewhere where I know that I'm going to be creating some sort of content or photos, I'll put it in for that. They are very like durable. They are very high quality, but I just kind of in my head, I'm like, I don't want to like wear them out faster than I need to. So sometimes I'll carry them with me because I have been stopped, and people have been like, "Hey, I know you," and like, "Can I get a photo?" kind of thing. And it's like nice to have them with me on that kind of situation. But I definitely wear them at all of our shows, like, because I know there's going to be photos and stuff like that taken, and for all the content. So
That's awesome. Do you actually like to drink human blood? I have to
I
ask.
did.
And if you do you have a favorite type?
I don't. So I'm more
Oh,
of a
okay.
I'm more of a glampire than a vampire, I guess.
I love it. I love
Give me,
it. It's
I'll drink the
very
glitter, but yeah.
wonderful. I
A lot
love
of people
that.
ask that. A lot of people ask that, and then you know what?
Speaking of makeup, you said that you went to cosmetology school. Do you get asked a lot if you're gay?
Um, no, not really. I used to. I feel like when I first started like doing social media stuff, there was a lot more of it. Every once in a while now, somebody will ask. I mean, especially when you post a video and it happens to be one of your biggest videos and it has to do with something, it's kind of like I'm going to say the word gay joke, not that we're making fun of anybody that's gay, but
Oh.
I don't, do you know the video that I'm talking about? Me and my
Um,
friend, it was like, have you ever walked down the street with your best friend and you accidentally touched hands and you think to yourself, wow, that was weird, but I'm not gay. And then it goes to him and he's like, you are gay. You know,
no, I have not seen
you
that.
haven't
You'll
seen
have to
that?
send that to me.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm not, just putting that out there. I'm not, and he's not either. But we did this video, and it was like one of the biggest videos on either of our pages. I think it's sitting at like 1.4 million views right now. And people are like, "Oh yeah, I could see that. You definitely look gay." And I'm like, "What does gay look like?"
I mean, I think where that misconception comes from, and like this is just my idea of it, is that like a lot of guys are just very like only girls do makeup,
Sure,
it's not
sure,
manly to care about your appearance. So it's like whenever guys do those things, it seems very feminine.
right,
And a lot of guys are not cool with that, and it's fine that
sure,
everybody's, down with their own stuff. But I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. It's like really a lot of guys in like the gay community do care about how they appear and
sure.
how they smell, and like that matters. Like as a woman, like I would much rather be with a guy who looks good and smells good.
Right.
It matters.
Well, and I'm sitting here wondering, like, did you forget about Motley Crue? Did you forget about like all these, Kiss? I mean, those dudes have been wearing makeup, and it was
They
cool.
got called like gay all the time, I'm pretty sure. Did
Oh,
you
sure.
read The Dirt or like any of Nikki Sixx's like books or anything? Like he talks about how, outside of nightclubs after shows, like people would make fun of the way that they looked and
Oh,
they
for
would get into
sure. No
fights.
doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I mean, I've had similar situations, obviously, where people have like, said stuff to me because of the way that I dress, and I don't really care. It's like, whatever.
Everybody's gonna have something to say,
Yeah, sure,
no matter
sure.
what.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think like you found your people. I know that you have a really like dedicated online community.
yeah.
Like, how many people do you have on your Patreon? It's some crazy number. You have
Right
to be in like the
now,
top 100 or something.
oh no, no, we're far from that. I wish. Right now we're at 763 as of this morning.
That's wild. And these are all people that pay you
Correct. Uh,
to,
I mean, yeah, I guess when we put it that way, yes.
well, I mean, they
I
pay to support you.
correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely like to think of our community as like it's not something that's just coming to me monetarily, but going back into our community. I don't know if we've talked about it or not, but we've been working with bat conservations and sanctuaries. I told you about that.
Mm,
Yeah,
yes. And I am like a huge fan of just bats in general. I think they're such a misunderstood creature.
for sure.
Especially flying foxes. They are like literally sky dogs. I love them so much.
Right, right.
So whenever I see like I'm a huge animal advocate. That is definitely like my thing.
Sure.
So when I saw that like you were doing animal stuff, I was very like, that's my kind of person right there.
Yeah,
And I
it's
guess like a lot of your people probably feel the same way, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the way that this all got started was because, my patrons, we call them my baby bats. And, we say we've got 763 baby bats on our community right now. But we were like, what can we do to kind of like give back in a way? I mean, our Patreon is like, there's so much on Patreon. And it's crazy because like I've looked at, other people's Patreons and I'm like, how are you getting away with doing so little and have so many people following and supporting? You know what I mean? You and it's like, mine, I'm constantly putting more and more and more and more and more stuff because I'm like, these people are paying every month to be part of this. Like, I feel like I need to give more. But one of the things that we decided to do was work with bat conservations and sanctuaries through different milestones that we hit on the Patreon. So every time we hit a milestone, I'm going to take a percentage of what comes into me from my cut, and then we're going to work with different sanctuaries around the world to help out actual bats and baby bats. You know what I mean?
So, okay, how has that worked up to this point? Like, how long have you been, is it just donating, or like do you actually like go out and help, or kind of give me the rundown on that, what you guys have already done with the bat sanctuaries?
So we haven't really done much yet because we haven't hit one of our milestones. Obviously, when it comes down to it, it's got to make sense financially. I got to make sure I cover my expenses and then still have a percentage left over to donate. But what right now, and we haven't hit that point yet. Our first milestone is going to be at 1,000 patrons. Once we hit 1,000, then I'm going to turn around and start doing that. But we've worked alongside Bat World Sanctuary. We've worked with BCI, Bat Conservation International. I think it's Bat Conservation International. I think that's what BCI is. But we've worked alongside with them. We've had a lot of people who have adopted bats to help out with the actual bat thing. And when I say that real quick, let me just clarify, because a lot of people are like, what? I can adopt a bat? Yeah, you can adopt a bat, but it's symbolic. It's like adopting a star, right?
Got it.
Yeah. So
Yes.
just for anybody who's watching, they're like, wait a minute, what? So actually right
Always
here,
wanted a bat.
right. So right here, this is one that I adopted.
Oh my God, is it a flying fox?
It's
Oh,
yep. It's I think Indian flying fox is what this one is.
I
And
love them.
so I'm still learning so much about bats. Like I didn't get into this because I'm like some bat guru and I know everything about bats. But it's given me the opportunity to learn a lot about bats through, working with them. And Merlin Tuttle is another one we've talked to. I don't know if you know who that is, but very big bat, conservationist and stuff. So yeah, it's super fun. It's something. I don't know how many people have done it now. We've had a good amount of people who have gone out and adopted bats through BCI and Bat World Sanctuary, and they've contacted us and said, hey, we've had quite a bit of people who have done this, so it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm telling you, I'm such an animal person, and it's like anybody that does anything with animals, I'm just like, my people. I
Yeah,
love it
no,
so much.
it's a lot of fun, super educational. So there's two different ways about it. One, it's like if you're part of the baby bats on Patreon, you can get in, it's $5. And then once we hit our milestone, then I'm donating money. Every milestone we hit, I'm donating more and more money. But you can also just go to Bat World Sanctuary or BCI and adopt the bat. So it's like, depending on how you're trying to do it, if you're trying to support me as a content creator and do that, boom, $5. If you want to just go and adopt the bat, and get the adoption package and the photo and all that stuff, then it's like $35 or $40, I think, through them to just adopt one. So it just really depends on what people are trying to do.
Gotcha. Okay, so can you go into a little bit more about like your different tiers on Patreon? Because I know that you have a couple of different ones. So
I think we've got 7 right now.
oh my gosh, I was like,
Yeah.
did I get that wrong? Like I looked.
No, I think we've got 7. Let me see. Actually got it open right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Yeah, 7. So, again, it's one of those things where it's like every tier, I try to make sure people feel like, oh, there's something new and something special about this tier to be there.
Hard.
It's
You do it.
it's super
And
hard.
like what do you have on your Patreon, and how do you manage the different tiers? Like I only have one tier because I'm like I cannot dedicate any more
Yeah, it's
than that.
It's hard, but I've made this my life. This is my career. You know what I mean? So it's like working is this. So for the $5 a month, we've got a Discord, private Discord. Are you familiar with Discord?
Kind of
So
like,
it's more or less like a private server or chat room where you can have your community go in there and hang out. So what was happening was we were getting a lot of like people on my TikTok lives that were hanging out and they were like, oh man, I wish we could all do this all the time. But I was like, I really don't want to stream 24 hours a day. So how can we create a community aspect and keep that family building when I am not on TikTok? And that's when we decided to do this Discord. So it's a private server. It's got different chat rooms in there. Like you can go in if you're an artist or a writer or if you're whatever, a tattoo artist, you can go in there and you can share what you do with the other people, the other baby bats in the community. We've got a venting channel where people will talk about like, addiction or abuse or whatever it is, and they need somebody to turn to because they don't have friends or family IRL, and they're like, how can I who can I turn to? And then they'll go in there and talk about it. And they've got a community of people who give a shit about them, who they've never met. It's a beautiful thing. We had to make it private. I had to put it on Patreon because we were getting a lot of trolls. We were getting a lot of negativity, and that's not what I want my community to be about. So instead of making it public to just anybody, I was like, look, we'll put it on Patreon. We'll make it a whole $5 to be part of. You know what I mean? Like, people can come in, they can support the community by being on the Patreon, but then they get a safe space. There's no trolls, there's no negativity. It's beautiful. So anyways, so there's that. There's free shipping on any of my merch from my merch store. There's podcast episodes, like people will get uncut full length stuff.
what kind of merch do you have?
Oh my God, everything. Shirts, hoodies, crop hoodies, mugs, tapestries, puzzles. I mean, you name it, we've got it on there.
Is it
Joggers.
just like your logo or something?
We've got
Or the band?
we've got a handful of different designs. Well, so the band has its own stuff
Okay.
too. That's completely separate though. So
Okay.
yeah, I've got like a whole line of Boku Hyde merch. I mean, there's different graphic kind of tees. There's different like one-liners. Vampires suck. I mean, there's like all kinds of different stuff in there.
Nice.
So
Okay. I had
yeah,
to know. You'll
yeah.
also
There's
have to send me, photos of that.
sure. Yeah, there's a
Pop that
whole
in here.
extensive collection of so I just work with a company called Teespring, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they basically say, hey, here's all the items that we have that you can sell. You sell it for what you want and you put whatever you want on it. I mean, there's shower curtains, there's welcome mats, there's anything you can think of, they've got it.
And that's
So
awesome. No, I'm only familiar with I don't know. I use one for uncovering Florida, but it's not like it's basically like just t-shirts and stuff. Like
okay.
it would be nice to have other things other than just a t-shirt that says
Yeah.
something. But no, that's really cool. Okay, so you have merch, which is it just that kind of stuff, or is it also like I've seen that you have like a makeup palette? Do you also sell that stuff there, or is that
No,
just like limited time?
that's separate. So it's not going to be a limited time, but yes, I am launching a makeup collection. I'm working with a company called Cursed Cosmetics. Um, we are going to be launching a eyeshadow palette and 2 lipsticks. So as a baby bat on Patreon, you're getting early access to this stuff. So any company that I do a collaboration with and do like a Boku Hyde whatever collaboration, I always try to offer some sort of significant discount to my patrons. Um, I always try to offer early access, and then I always try to see if the company will do some sort of freebie for them. With Cursed Cosmetics, we're going to be launching this. It's called Hide Your Face. It's the eyeshadow palette. And Cursed Cosmetics is saying, anybody who's a baby bat is going to get early access. They're going to get 30% off. And we just did, I think it was like a month ago, we did a free lipstick for anybody who's a patron. So Cursed said, hey, I'm willing to do a free lipstick for anybody who's a baby bat. All you guys got to do is just pay for the shipping and you'll have a free lipstick. And we sold within 48 hours, we pushed 300 lipsticks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like seriously, the community that you have is far beyond most creators.
I appreciate that. And I honestly, I want to say that I think it's because I really do take time to try to get to know these people and engage with them. I don't look at people, obviously this is how I make my living, but I don't look at each individual as a dollar sign. I look at them as somebody who's actually supporting what I do as a content creator and allowing me to chase the dreams that I have. So every single person is super like incredibly important to me. You know, I try really hard to build just a very loyal, not loyal to me, but loyal to the community itself, loyal to each other, loyal to supporting one another. Like that's the kind of community that I want. The only thing that's sad to me is that I don't have a way of getting it out to more people, because it's, you know, the only way that I'm really getting exposure on this right now is just like TikTok live and stuff like that, you know.
I mean, it takes time to build, but obviously it's working.
It is, you know, but I ask myself like how long do I want to sit on TikTok live every night? How often do I want to do that? You know, I mean, it's sitting there doing the same sales pitch, if you will, over and over and over again, because let's think
Oh,
about it,
that's
you know,
the
you get
salesman in you.
right. And I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a salesman when it comes to this stuff. I want people to know it and be like, hey, I want to be part of this amazing community. It's beautiful. You're doing something amazing. I don't want to hear a sales pitch. I just want to be part of it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I'm trying to get, because I don't want to sit there and sell people on it. Like I can sell you on it. I can make you want to spend your $5 on it, but I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you want to have like a community behind it, and that's totally
right.
respectable. And I think something again that sets you apart from a lot of other creators that are doing similar stuff. I mean, like I said, you know, even for me, I have just one tier on Patreon and I upload like maybe twice a month.
Sure, sure.
You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I can only imagine like people think that creators just have all day to sit around and do nothing. But I think they don't understand that we spend a lot more time than like just 9 to 5.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're working every single day of the week. It doesn't
All day.
stop on Saturday and Sunday. Like it's a Sunday right now, and we're both working.
Yep. 100%.
Like it doesn't stop. We're never off. Um, and so you know, how often do you work? Like, do you have a schedule or do you
No.
just kind of like go with the flow?
Every day, every day. If I'm not streaming, I'm filming some sort of content. If I'm not filming some sort of content, I'm streaming. If I'm not filming content or streaming, I'm doing some stuff with, you know, my staff or some sort of business that I'm trying to collaborate with. If I'm not doing something content creator related, I'm probably doing photography for a client, working on a video or a photo. I mean, I'm constantly go, 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 go. There's so many things. I can't lay around and do nothing. Like I just can't. Like sitting down and watching
What is
TV is
your
a problem for me.
hobby? Do you
What
have
I
a
do,
hobby?
what I do for work.
That
That's my
okay,
hobby,
well they always say like, you know, if you work a job you love, you will never work a day in your life.
which is
So
which, if I'm allowed to say, is bullshit, because I love what I do and I still work every day of my life. You know what I mean? Like I get the saying, like I get the sentiment behind that, but it's like, no, dude, that's not true. Like, because I absolutely love what I do, but I still work. Like it's still work. It's still hard work, and I still work myself like tired to death to get it done.
keep yourself from burning out because
Um,
that's where my issue is. Like I can go hard for a couple of weeks, but then like I reach a peak and I'm just like, I need a break. I hate my face. I'm tired of seeing it. Like I can't
um,
do anymore.
Honestly, if I can be real with you right now, there's two things that really keep me going through my burnout. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm burnt out. I've been burnt out. Burnt out was a long time ago. I don't enjoy sitting on TikTok live doing the sales pitch every night, but I have to because that's where people come from. There's two things that keep me going. One is the community itself. The fact that I've had so many people tell me, you know, that this community literally stopped them from committing suicide, or you know, some different thing of self-harm. You know, there's a lot of people that were like, you don't understand what being in this community has done for me. The friends that I made, the connections I made, the relationships that I made, like you don't understand what you've done. And I'm like to me, that's huge. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take credit for that because it's like the community chose to do that. But every day that I don't go live is a potential person that didn't get to hear about our community or didn't get to join it. And maybe that's that one person that didn't have somebody that night to choose to talk to. You know what I mean? And so even though I do feel burnt out, I'm like, what is 5 hours a night streaming or 8 hours a night streaming, even though I don't love it? You know what I mean? It's better than 5 hours of doing some shit that I hate, you know?
Crazy to me that like you can work basically from the time you get up to the time that you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, I mean, I've worked jobs that I absolutely hated and dreaded getting up to go do. I mean, and now it's like, what do I have to complain about? I sit at home, I bought my own house. I sit at home and I stream and I create content from my house. Like, I think I don't really have a whole lot of right to complain about having to create content. You know what I mean? I'm living what a lot of people would dream to do. So,
Yeah, I mean, and you're doing good work, like
thank you.
obviously. Again, having over 700 Patreon is patrons on Patreon is a pretty significant number, especially for a guy. I have to say it. Like women, guys will
Sure,
pay for
sure.
that.
Sure,
But to
sure.
like actually have like a whole community and people who support you because you're you, I think says a lot.
Thank you.